What's up, everybody? James Duggan here. Joining me is Filip. We are at E3 2018, and we were lucky enough to get our hands on the Division 2. So straight away, how did it feel? Did it feel drastically different from the Division 1?
No. Short answer, no. It did not feel drastically different, but it still felt really good. It felt a lot like the Division 1, but with sort of more refined mechanics, and the shooting obviously felt a lot better. And it just feels like Ubisoft is really picking up on what fans have been asking for out of the Division. So to me, this version, it feels very close to the original, but a slightly slower paced. You're definitely going to want to take your time before, charging out into battle and going guns wild. Yeah, exactly. You die very, very quickly. So you want to be strategic with your planning, just like you did in the original Division, but even more so here.
I totally agree with that. You die extremely quickly. The time to kill has been reduced on both yourself as well as the enemy. You mentioned it. Feedback from the first game, one of the biggest points of feedback, I think, was the idea that enemies are bullet sponges.
Right.
And Julian Garrity, the creative director, addressed that a lot, and he said the time to kill was reduced on red bars significantly. I felt that. The other thing I felt was the big, bulky enemies that should be taking a lot of hits visibly have this armor that comes off, and so that felt good. Like, the bullet sponge was not as big of a concern. Obviously, there's scaling, and we only got to play a very small vertical slice, but the problem that I did still have was the purple bars, which don't have that visible tell, but do still have that high health pool. Still felt a little bit spongy, but there are some ways that you can kind of kill them very quickly too, and I am of course referring to the new signature weapons. So Filip, what are signature weapons, and did you enjoy them?
Yes, so instead of signature abilities like we had in the original Division, we now have something called signature weapons. So the character that we got a chance to play as actually had a signature grenade launcher, and now those weapons are very powerful. So that's where you're going to find your 50 caliber sniper rifle, you're going to get your grenade launcher, or I'm not sure.
The crossbow. You get a crossbow
as well.
It's kind of like that Gears of War gun where it sticks in them and then it explodes.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very fun.
So they're super powerful weapons, and they make taking down bosses a lot easier, and I really like that. I think that's probably my favorite new feature of the Division.
I absolutely agree. I think that pushes your character in a really cool archetypal class fantasy direction. I think you can get some cool team compositions going on, but that's not the only thing coming to the Division 2 that is new. It is also set in Washington, D.C., which you may be saying that's just a backdrop, but there are actually some pretty significant gameplay changes that come along with this. So what did you think of Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so gone is all of the snow that we remember from the Division 1 in New York City, and now we're set in Washington, D.C., where everything is all of a sudden green, and the foliage has sort of grown in, and it created sort of a jungle-like environment, or more of a tropical-like environment. And given the fact that we are now out of the city of New York, we are now in Washington, D.C., the spaces are a little bit more open as well, is something that I've noticed. We played particularly in an area where there was a plane crash, and we were trying to take down a boss, and that area is very open. There's lots of cover to hide around. And lots of enemies to shoot as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of flanking enemies, a lot of big, wide open spaces. A lot more to look forward to, I think, in terms of progression, but we didn't really get to see a lot of that. It was a pretty small slice.
Right.
So the final question I'll pose to you, Filip, is, are you looking forward to this? Do you think at this point you're going to pick up the Division 2 and play it?
Yeah, absolutely. I really am looking forward to it. I played a ton of the first Division, and then I fell out right before the expansion started coming out, but I think this is actually something that will bring me back to the series. I'm really looking forward to exploring more of Washington, D.C., and what that city has to offer, as opposed to, what we saw in New York. And the new signature weapons are amazing. I can't wait to unlock all of them and use them. So yeah, in total, I think it's going to be a really fun game.
I have to say, I totally agree. If, for nothing else, this is kind of a Division do-over.
Right.
They're able to put the number 2 on there, make all the changes they want to, take the lessons from the first game and apply them to the second game, and hopefully get a really big player base that they retain for a very long time, because that's what you need in this kind of shared world shooter environment. Filip, thank you so much for joining me. This has been IGN at E3 2018. I'm James Duggan, and for all things Division 2, keep it right here on IGN.